Hello, my name is Trish Morgan and today is Saturday the 27th of March, and just as a bit of a backdrop today, filming in the conservatory to remind us all that spring is definitely here, and it's great to feel that we're putting something behind us and we're moving forward, hopefully into better things. But today's message is coming from Romans 9 verses 22 to 33. I'm really grateful I didn't get some of the earlier ones, and bravo to all those that have had a good old go at some of the very tricky verses. But mine is a little bit more simple. There might be a little bit of overlap from whoever spoke yesterday, because what really struck me about this passage was the thought of somebody trying to say to God, hang on a minute, have you got this right? I know we have a propensity to do that as humans, but it doesn't make me smile when we think about it. And for this, I've gone into the Message version because I find sometimes the Message version or other kind of more plain speaking versions easier to grasp my head around some of the issues. And I love this little bit where it simply says this: clay doesn't talk back to the fingers that mold it, saying, "Why did you shape me like this?" Isn't it obvious that a potter has a perfect right to shape one lump of clay into a vase for holding flowers and into another for cooking a pot of beans? I mean, we all want to be that beautiful pot that God uses to show off and put something very beautiful in. Nobody really wants to be on the back end of things, but sometimes that's just the way it goes. It's not for us to dictate to God how he uses us, when he uses us, and for what purpose. That is ultimately God's call. I remember years ago hearing a really controversial talk. At the time, it seemed controversial, but and the theme was this: God isn't always fair, but he's always right. God isn't always fair, but he's always right. And I think sometimes in our humanness, we try and weigh up and value fairness in a very different way to way God does. But you know what? Ultimately, God is always right. And so maybe the first point I want to make from our talk today is one of surrender. Just let go. Let God do what he wants to do. Let God shape us the way he wants to shape us for his use and for his glory, because that is the better way to go. And then as we go down into the text, we see that Paul is quoting from Hosea and from Isaiah. First of all, the part of Hosea where God says, I'll call nobodies and make them somebodies. I'll call the unloved and I'll make them loved. And where they've been yelled at, you're nobody, well, actually, you belong to God. You are God's children. What a beautiful redemptive exchange we've got going there. We weren't loved, and God says, yes, we are. In him we are, and we're accepted and we're forgiven. And I absolutely love that. So it's just this whole matter of surrendering. And then he quotes again from Isaiah, which actually is also quoted in Psalm 139, about outnumbering the grains of the sand. And it talks about things not being labelled as a number, but as a name. You know, that is so important. We're not numbers to God, we're names. And those names are written on the palm of his hands. This is what it says. That's how loved and how special we are. I certainly know when we've done our work out in Greece, particularly amongst the refugees, when they went to their asylum centres early at the crack of dawn in the morning, queuing up outside. Eventually the big doors would open and out would walk these police, in riot gear, against these people that were patiently, calmly waiting on the pavement just to maybe be picked to go in for that day to start their asylum process. These guys would come out with riot gear, with gloves and masks, looking rather unwelcoming. And they'd start shouting the language that people spoke, Arabic, Farsi, anything like that. And if they shouted it, you were meant to queue up. And then somebody would walk down that queue and tap you on the shoulder. They didn't want to know your name. They didn't even give you a number. They just pointed to the gates to say you can go in. And then they were labelled by what they wore, not even by their name. That's how sometimes dehumanizing this whole process was for them, and how humiliating. God's not like that. God knows us by our name. That's how loved we are. That's how special we are. Every one of us. He doesn't forget anybody's name. He remembers everyone. And we're known and loved of God like that. And I think that's wonderful. At the end of this talk, I came with this song in my mind. Many years ago, I was on tour And we had a blind singer travel with us. Her name was Marilyn Baker. She wrote this beautiful song. And this is how I want to end this thought for today. And the song went like this: Jesus, you are changing me. By your Spirit, you're making me like new. Jesus, you're transforming me, that your loveliness may be seen in all I do. You are the potter, I am the clay. Help me to be willing to let you have your way. And that's a kind of thought I want to leave for you today, a prayer that I want to leave with you today, one of surrender to God. He knows best and he is always right. Bless you.